You're listening to another episode of the Just Go Bike podcast, powered by RagBri. This is the award-winning podcast where we are all about the culture of cycling, just for the fun of it. Your hosts are Murph from the Murphology podcast and AP from Parrot Talk. With tales from all over the nation, come for the bikes, stay for the fun, and leave with a smile. And now here is Murph.
Hey, that's me.
And AP.
Hey, that's me. Hi, Murph.
Well, hey, AP. Do you know May is Bike Month?
I sure do, and it's right around the corner.
I mean, it is right around the corner. And, I guess every month is Bike Month for me, personally. But are you or RagBri planning anything?
Yeah, well, first of all, my plan is to just bike as much as possible during Bike Month, which is truly, to be honest, not that big of a change from my normal life, but that's what we're doing. And then RagBri is doing a couple small things where on our social pages, we'll be doing a refresh so that people will remember that it is Bike Month. So we'll have some branding going up on our emails and our social pages. That'll be my little role to play in our Bike Month celebration. But overall, we're just celebrating bikes like we always do by promoting them, talking about them, and riding them.
Yeah. There used to be a time, it was some event that took place up in Minnesota, but they, as the internet became, the way of life, you could piggyback onto their event. And I think it was in April, and it was literally kind of helping everybody ramp up towards Bike Month, where you had to bike every single day. And I used to do it. I don't remember why I stopped doing it. Actually, I probably do remember why, because back in the day, it would always be snowy and cold in April.
Oh, yeah.
And I would be like, I've got to go ride my bike. It became more of a chore than a joy. So,
yeah.
But I think I've been pedaling almost every day this month. But
oh, I believe it. Every time I'm on Zwift, I see you up there. I would like to recommend the Des Moines Mayor's Ride if you're in town. It's an annual event. It's going to be on May 3rd, so it will kind of kick off Bike Month. But it's a short ride through Des Moines, as it kind of sounds like, but it supports the trails here in the city. So it's a really cool event, and it's surrounding the Capitol, so you know where to go. And the mayor, Connie Boyson, will be riding as well.
So awesome. I would guess most bigger communities across the nation do something for Bike Month. So if you are wanting to celebrate with other people, maybe check out your local bike shop.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Or bikeiowa.com, they have a good list of events all around the state.
Oh, yeah. So I don't know if you remember this, AP, but back in 2016, my Bike Month kicked off with a bang, almost literally. It was May 2nd of that year when I got hit by a person driving a minivan.
Yeah.
Which, lucky for me, the vehicle wasn't moving very fast. But now I literally know what it feels like when somebody says, I feel like I've been hit by a truck. And it is not fun. I mean, luckily, the vehicle was going slow enough that, I bounced off the hood of the car, but I didn't break any bones. But dang, what an experience.
I remember how scared I was just hearing you say that you'd been hit by a car, much less actually have been hit by the car. What an experience. I've had a lot of close calls personally, but I've luckily, knock on wood, never have been hit by a car. So try to keep it that way.
Well, maybe I'll write about it in our upcoming newsletter.
Oh yeah.
Just to give out details, because I don't want to bring down the attitude of today's podcast. But I guess my biggest advice when encountering a driver is to make eye contact before crossing paths, and that's something that I live by. And I did not do it that day, and it shows.
Yeah, no, that's great advice especially for situations where the traffic is moving either to the front or to the side of you while you're biking. Obviously, it's hard to make eye contact with someone behind you, but
right.
Yeah, hopefully May will be a month to celebrate everything bicycle, and including our friends who drive cars instead of bicycles. So keep a little bit more awareness up.
And of course, if you're going to be getting outside more, getting more miles, getting ready for RagBri, we created a Just Go Bike bingo card, and you can print it off or you can screenshot it on your phone and use it throughout the month.
That's so fun. You know how much I love bingo. and I'm going to be going for a blackout on all the squares.
Oh, well, challenge accepted. Me too.
Yeah, and you can find, if you want to play along, you can find the Just Go Bike bingo card on our social media starting May the 1st.
Okay, well, let's move forward. Earlier this week, I got to tour what's called the Bike Library. Have you ever been to a bike library?
Well, yes, and obviously I'm a big fan of any type of library. I love to read, but which one were you at?
I went to the Iowa City Bike Library, and they are on today's podcast.
That is so cool. I used to live in Iowa City, so I have visited there before. But for those who haven't visited one, how do you define a bike library?
Okay, I think you can define it many ways, but Audrey and Kate, who are on this episode, they will explain it much better than I am, but basically it's a place to rent, borrow, or even buy a used bicycle. But it's so much more. They've done a spectacular job making their space a welcome place for everyone in the community.
That's so cool. And I've heard that they also do events.
Yeah, they do. I have participated in their farm-to-table gravel rides in the past. And when I was there for the interview to record, there was a group gathering for a potluck. The weather wasn't very kind for outdoor biking, so they decided to still meet up and have a potluck. So it was pretty cool. And then various people were working on their bikes or learning to work on their bikes.
Yeah, that's super cool. It sounds like an awesome space, and I can't wait to hear what they've been up to.
All right, well, let's get to it. Welcome to Audrey and Kate. How are you guys?
Very well, thank you, Murph. We're so happy to be here.
Hi, Murph. This is Audrey, and we are excited to talk to you today.
And here's what's cool is I am not at Paratalk Studios in Des Moines. I'm not in my own studio in Cedar Rapids. I'm actually at the Iowa City Bike Library where both Audrey and Kate work. So this is a super cool space. I got to do the 10-cent tour, which was pretty awesome. There's a lot of bikes, a lot of different things happening in this space. And you gave me some ideas of upcoming things that are going to be happening in this space. So I want to get into all that, but will you tell the listeners what position you hold here at the Iowa City Bike Library?
Yes, I am the director of the Bike Library, and I'm going on my 7th year here. And I was an AmeriCorps member for the Bike Library back in 2012, actually, which is how I started becoming familiar with the shop. And I moved away and came back to Iowa City and took job as director.
I'm Kate Wiley. I'm the Fundraising Coordinator at the Bike Library, and I came on to work specifically on our capital campaign, which I'm sure we'll get into later.
Okay, I got to put that on the side of my head, a capital campaign. We got to talk about that. Okay, and I already spoiled it. We're in Iowa City. But will you tell the listeners what the bike culture is like here in Iowa City?
So I would say the bike culture in Iowa City is pretty extensive. There are so many different genres of biking, and we are so lucky here in Johnson County, and I feel like in Iowa in general, to have so many opportunities to race or ride or get involved in really just about any community that you live in. What I love about biking in Iowa is even though we don't have a ton of elevation, there's still plenty of options to go mountain biking. There's gravel riding. This is the home of gravel riding. I remember when Trans Iowa started way back when, people were starting to get pretty excited about gravel riding, and now it's taken over.
Oh, yeah. Now it's just like, people just assume that you gravel ride.
And, as someone who loves road riding too, I think people are nervous that road biking and road racing is
gonna go away.
Yeah. But luckily we have RAGBRAI to keep it alive.
Right.
And I was just at a road race a few weeks ago, and we had a great turnout for the Kent Park Classic, which was the road race that they have resurrected. And so I thought that was pretty hopeful too. because it would be nice to have all different genres of biking in Iowa thriving. And that's our goal at the Bike Library too, is to meet people where they're at, wherever they're at in their stage of riding, whether it's, I don't know how to ride a bike, or I'm getting back into it after not being on a bike for 20, 30, 40 years, or I'm getting back into it because my kids want to ride more. We meet people where they're at and hopefully inspire them to interact with the different biking cultures that we offer.
And I've been, I'm only about, I don't know, a half an hour away from Iowa City. And when I've been down here to bike specifically, it's been everything that you mentioned. I've done the mountain bike, which I know there's no mountains in Iowa, but yet we still have a robust trail system in Iowa City. I've also been down here to do gravel. There's a gravel group that meets once a week that has been a blast. And then, of course, the trail system. Like, the trail system is off the chart. I hope that you guys agree with that.
Oh, yeah. We do lots of different programs here. We have 15 different socially conscious programs.
Wow.
And we meet people where they're at. And a lot of the times that is, we're kind of like the gateway for a lot of people to get back into biking or to get into biking in the first place. And having the trail system that is so robust, it makes it a lot easier for people to get into biking who maybe aren't as confident biking out on the road yet.
So if anybody's out there listening that maybe is near Iowa City, Iowa, do either of you, and I guess it doesn't have to be in Iowa City, Iowa, but do either of you have a favorite place that you love to bike?
I just moved here, and one of my favorite parts about living in Iowa City is how easy my commute is. So I live about a mile and a half away, and it's one of my favorite parts of the day.
I would have to say that, like, my commute is also about a mile and a half, and that's great. I've lived in places where my commute was 14 miles. When I worked at the casino and lived in Iowa City, I would ride my bike 14 miles there and back.
Wow.
In the summer. And that was glorious. When I lived in California, my commute was 8 miles on single track and trails and gravel. That was equally as glorious. I think so the Bike Library specializes in commuter bikes. Like, that's how we got started, is because we wanted to help people to choose the bike as their primary form of transportation for trips under 3 miles specifically.
And that's a hard mindset. People who have just driven their car, they don't even think anything of it, to be able to say that to them, you can bike to work. You guys are saying that you're less than 2 miles. In theory, you could walk it, but I mean, what fun is that, right? But I mean, somebody who maybe is 5 miles away from work or 10 miles, I'm sure that they're only thinking of busy traffic roads. They're not thinking in terms of, I could actually have a commuter bike that has bags on it, that has my work clothes. I know how to go from bike mode to work mode, physically and mentally. I'm sure that you're helping with people that way.
One of the programs that we do, Outspoken Teens, it's an Earn a Bike program, and we'll talk a little bit more about it later. But once a teen earns their bike, we ask them where they live, where they work, and where they go to school. And we take them on the safest routes in between those areas, because the route that they take on a bike is going to be different than the route that they're used to driving in their car with their parents, or taking in a bus, getting to school. So yeah, it is a lot of one-on-one mentorship that we offer through the various programs to show people that the routes you take on your bike are way more fun than the routes you would be taking in a vehicle.
The ease of commuting also seems especially applicable to Iowa because we live in such small towns. Often, I'm from Grinnell, Iowa, so anywhere you want to get, you can get on a bike in 15 minutes. And I think that with the rise of gravel biking, we're really looking at a statewide movement where cycling takes over as a primary form of transportation.
And you said that, a lot of it's one-on-one interactions, but I mean, one-on-one interactions that become successful take one car off the road. So you gotta, it's a grassroots effort. I mean, which I don't know why I'm even saying that to you, because that's what you guys do.
That's so true. And one of the things I love about the volunteers that are here at the bike library is they'll learn something and they'll be able to teach other people, and the way we teach each other and the knowledge sharing and the exchange of knowledge and skills between volunteers and patrons is so healthy. And that has come about because of this hands-off assisting approach that we've been developing. It's always kind of like in the works, and we're always trying to improve it. We're always trying to improve ways to share skills with people, because teaching people how to do things and letting them do things themselves as opposed to doing it for them, it allows them to be able to pass that knowledge on a lot better, and they're going to be more confident in teaching other people how to do that. So hopefully the skills that we're sharing a lot of the times will reverberate back into the community. And Iowa City is kind of a transient population because of the students.
And it's the home of University of Iowa.
University of Iowa Hawkeyes.
Okay,
absolutely.
go Hawkeyes. Sorry, Cyclones.
I'm from Ames, so
sorry,
I kind of straddle both worlds. But one of the things I love about being in this transient kind of community is we get to meet people from all over the world, and all over the country. And if you are into the alternative biking scene, you will seek out a community bike shop wherever you're at. There are 220 community bike shops across the United States.
Wow.
And so if someone's going to college here, going to graduate school, and they come to the bike library to get a affordable quality bike from us, and maybe they volunteer for a few years, wherever they go next, they're going to be able to pass that knowledge that they learned on through a different in a different bike culture in a different part of the country. And I've talked to a lot of people who have gone to the University of Iowa who have moved on to other careers in other parts of the country, and they're volunteering or even working in a community bike shop now.
Oh, cool. That's super cool. Which is a great segue. Tell us, what exactly is the Iowa City Bike Library? Like, what is it?
We take in donated bikes and we put value back into them, and then we check them out through our checkout system. You put down a deposit of $200, let's say, for a bike. It's been overhauled, and then you get that bike for 6 months. If you return the bike before your 6-month due date, we'll give you your money back, minus $50. And if you decide you want to keep the bike past your due date, then we keep your deposit and you just bought it. So it is rent to own, essentially. And that is how we got started. That was our flagship program back in 2004. Since then, we have so many other ways you can get a bike. Do you want to talk about how other ways people can get bikes?
Yeah, so we're essentially a Goodwill for bikes and all things bikes. So we take in about 2,000 donated bikes a year, which is just incredible that there's so much value in our community that we're able to recycle. So we refurbish these bikes either for rental, as Audrey said, or for sale. So we have affordable bikes that are great for either gravel riding, mountain bike riding, road racing. And then one of our really important programs, our cornerstone program, is Public Bench. So this is a free program that people can attend with their bike. They don't have to have any mechanical knowledge, and our professional mechanics will teach them how to fix anything that they need on their bike. So this is used by, people that are racing their bikes, but also people that are commuting on their bikes, using it every day as an important machine. And so this is where our community building really happens, is at the workbench, when people are having that transfer of knowledge. It's really important. And so we have different offshoots of our Public Bench. We have our Women Trans Femme night for kind of a ladies' night in the shop on Tuesday. And then we also have our Outspoken Teens, which Audrey mentioned earlier, with specifically our teen population.
So you mentioned, like if I'm somebody that lives in the area, I want to utilize the public bench service that you offer. I want to come in, I want to learn how to change a flat tire or how to clean my chain. Who's going to teach me this?
So if you come in for public bench, you'll just sign in. We have 6 different benches that we'll assign you to. We'll talk to you about what your goals are, how much time you have. If you have the time, we have the patience. And we have a mechanic who's always in the shop. We also have volunteers that are floating around that have various levels of experience. Some of our volunteers have been volunteering here for 20 years, which is as long as we've been around. Some have only been here a few months. But you can learn anything you want at Public Bench. So if you come to learn how to fix a flat tire, we can walk you through that. If you come because your bottom bracket needs overhauled, we can walk you through that. That will take a little bit longer. And that's why we talk about what are your expectations? How much time do you have? Public Bench is free. We take donations. If people want to leave donations, they can.
One thing I noticed on your website, which tell everybody the website right now while we're talking.
It's bikelibrary.org.
Easy enough. I saw there are categories called give a bike, get a bike, ride a bike, fix a bike. I mean, how could you be any more simple? That is so great. But do you guys want to touch on what each of those mean?
Yeah, we kind of came up with that, those different categories for what you can do here, because sometimes people are reaching out to us and saying, can I donate this bike? Can I get a bike here? Can I fix my bike? And we do almost everything that is bike related, you can do here. So I like to say that we serve everyone that walks through our doors at any stage of their cycling endeavor and regardless of their circumstances. This is a really special space in that you come to be in community, to learn new skills. You can either stop in briefly to donate a bike, or you're also welcome to stay around the space. We have a little kombucha bar, a little lounge that you can sit in. You can also ride a bike through our community ride. So we had 250 days of free programming last year, and we held 65 community rides. Many of these are our Gatos and Ronda rides, which are on Friday, which are a beginner-friendly pace, and everyone's welcome. We also have our Women Trans Femme rides on Tuesday night, which are often a more gravel surface. And then our Fix a Bike program refers to our public bench as well.
And like I mentioned at the beginning, I'm actually in your facility, and you mentioned 2,000 bikes are donated a year, and this is a huge space. So you have like you said, the kombucha bar, you have the space for public bench, you have bikes that are probably ready for sale at this very moment, and then you also have bikes that are in the process of becoming available for sale. So I don't know if that gives listeners a little bit of an idea what this place looks like, but it's very easy to maneuver through. I've definitely been to other bike libraries that are not easy to maneuver through. So that is a huge compliment. And then you were telling me before we pushed record about an outdoor space that you're working on.
Yeah. So we started out in a somewhat dilapidated old building called the John Wilson Sporting Goods Store that was rented to us for $1 a year by the city.
Oh, wow.
And what I love about telling that part of our story is that there are so many places around Iowa where there are spaces that aren't being utilized and could be utilized for a public service like this. Mm-hmm. And we were right downtown for $1 a year. And because it's bikes and because we're a somewhat dirty operation, it didn't really matter that we were in a,
right,
kind of dusty, rundown building. And it was not that small, but it was a lot smaller than this. And after 10 years, we moved 5 times. And we kind of took refuge wherever we could until we everything came to, and we had to decide, if we were going to move for the last time. And that's when we pulled the trigger on buying this building. And I knew I wanted to buy the biggest facility that we could with the money that we had, because bikes take up a lot of room. They're awkward. We have lots of growing programs. And like Kate said, we just have a lot of community events here. Even people who don't ride bikes show up to volunteer or just to hang out.
I can feel that, though, the sense of community in this space. It feels like a place that I would want to hang out.
We bought this building because of the outdoor space. There is enough room for us to paint a cycle track. Our shop itself, there are 7,000 square feet, and then outside we have about 13,000 square feet.
Wow.
Where we call it the courtyard. It's just a big slab of concrete right now.
It's pretty though. Like you have paintings and stuff.
We've got a mural. We're going to put up another mural. We're going to put our cycle track down so that when people come to practice or test ride their bike that they've been working on at Public Bench, or kids, testing out different sizes of bikes. We have a safe place that's off the street and sidewalks for them to gain confidence on their new bike, gain confidence learning how to shift and brake properly. But the outdoor space, we are going to be redesigning into a dual purpose educational and community third space.
Audrey does a really good job of making sure that everyone is represented in the space visually. So there's really great artwork of kids racing, of the important strides made through women's suffrage and the right to ride a bicycle, and also Black athletes and all different people on bikes reflected in the artwork here, which I think makes it a very clearly very inclusive space.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, in speaking of the space, you utilize it for more than just selling bikes. So you've mentioned a couple times about the programs that you offer. Do you want to go a little bit deeper into some of those so we can hear what they're about?
The outdoor space is really important to our programming. So, for example, we just hired a youth bike coordinator, and he'll be in charge of our Outspoken Teens program and bike club. So we'll be able to utilize that space when people that are new to riding come to us. Outspoken Teens is a great program that, as I mentioned, is part of Public Bench. It's an iteration of Public Bench. And so we invite teens to come to the shop. They get to go into the back to look at the bikes that aren't yet fixed up for sale. They choose one that fits them, and then they work with our mechanics for 3 sessions, 2 hours each. So 6 hours total to work on this bike to get it fixed up, ready to go. At the end of that, they're able to take the bike home for free with a helmet, lock, and lights. And then that's when we give them those safe route recommendations that Audrey mentioned earlier.
And how do those students or youth find you?
We have incredible community partnerships. So Outspoken Teens started in collaboration with another nonprofit in town, United Action for Youth. They had a really great program that focused on getting kids outside, so doing activities that might not otherwise be available to them. So United Action for Youth would bring those kids over to us. Otherwise, we also have great connections in the school system. So at City High, there's a bike club, and Siri Felker was a big part in the staff at City High getting that program up and then bringing kids to us.
Excellent.
Kate mentioned our Friday night ride called Gatos en Ronda. One unique thing about the bike library is that we are transitioning to a bilingual shop. So Spanish-English. Gatos en Ronda means cruising cats in Spanish. And we have another language program called Mujeres en Bicis, which means women on bikes.
I was going to say women. That's the only one I knew.
Yep. Mujeres en Bicis is for Latino women who have never learned to ride a bike before.
Wow.
We noticed that through Bike Club, our Littles Bike Club, a lot of the moms were interested in getting more exercise and they wanted to bike with their kids, but they didn't know how. And so after a lot of requests, like individual requests to say, how do I get a bike? How can I learn how to ride a bike? 3 years ago, we just decided to start a program specifically for these women. Most of them are moms. And so every Wednesday in the summer, we meet for 2 hours and we teach people how to ride bikes.
Wow.
We meet at a park. The first year it started here and we weren't getting a whole lot of turnout because it's hard to get here if you're a busy mom. So then we just ended up going to the trailer park where a lot of these people live, and we started getting a lot more participation. And then there's a park very near this neighborhood that the third year we decided we're just going to meet at the park because that's a good centralized location for everybody. People can walk there if they don't know how to ride their bike yet. And if you show up for 6 rides, you get a free bike.
Wow.
So we have about 40 women who are part of Mujeres en Bicis last year. Some people it takes just a few days to learn how to ride a bike. We take off the pedals like you would for
like a Strider bike?
Yep. So you teach an adult how to ride a bike the same way you would teach a kid with a Strider bike, and people find their balance. As a 30, 40 some year old person, it's a really vulnerable situation to be in and not know how to ride a bike. But culturally, a lot of people didn't grow up riding bikes. And so, especially if you're not from the United States, sometimes it takes people a few days to learn how to ride a bike. Sometimes it takes them all summer. But it's a good opportunity to be social and learn a new skill. And one thing we hear from the moms is that sometimes it's the only time they have to themselves in a busy week.
And think of the freedom after you learn to ride a bike. Because I don't remember not being able to ride a bike, but it gets you from where you can walk to your reach is much further.
One of the other important programs that we have is our voucher bike program. So these are partnerships with other nonprofits in the area, domestic violence intervention program, and shelter house. So this is a program for people in need of this immediate access to transportation. So this is how we get free bicycles to people that need them right now. It's a really important one that allows us to serve truly everyone that walks through our doors.
Is the Iowa City Bike Library volunteer powered?
So for the first 12 years, we were fully volunteer powered.
Wow.
And in 2015, we hired our first executive director. And since then, we have grown to a staff of 5 full-time staff. And we have a roster of 150 volunteers.
Wow.
50 of which are active at any given week.
Wow.
So we have our board of directors, which is 11 people. We have our staff, which is 5. We have our steering committee, which runs our capital campaign, which is its own board, essentially. We have a new program called Cycling Without Age, which is an e-rickshaw bike program. They have their own board of 4 people. And then we have our 50 volunteers that are active any given week. So we have a lot of volunteers who are doing things in the shop, out in the community, behind the scenes. They're doing the admin. They're making everything run. There are a lot of people involved.
We have really great programs that are dedicated to developing our volunteers' mechanical skills. So that's something that I love about the bike library is you can come with an interest to volunteer and you don't need to know anything about a bike.
Oh, wow.
So we have our Wednesday night salvage night and our Thursday night open wrench, which are specifically for volunteers to develop their mechanical knowledge. It's a way for them to learn a new skill while advancing our cause of getting more people on bikes.
So I can't be the only one listening to this podcast that's wondering this. How in the heck is such a cool facility? Like, how are you funded?
We're unique in that we have our own revenue source, which is the bikes. People donate us bikes and we get really, really nice donations. And we sell those. We have a responsibility to the people that donate them to get a fair value price for them.
Right.
We also get a lot of bikes that we can't use that we end up recycling. We keep them out of the landfill. So we get the whole spectrum and we add as much value to them as we can. And we make sure to have bikes at all different price levels. So 60% of our revenue is generated through the sale of bikes or through the checkout system.
Wow. Okay.
20% is through grants and 20% is through donations, cash donations.
And that's a good segue into if somebody wants to donate, is it as simply as going to your website?
Yep. You can go to bikelibrary.org and donate. And we have the option to make a one-time donation or a reoccurring donation. We love it when people make sustaining donations, even if it's just $5 a month. And there's another way to make kind of more long-term donations. You want to talk about pledges? Possibly, Kate?
Of course. So I came on because we began a capital campaign, a $1 million capital campaign to expand our staff and facility capacity. And so part of what I'm doing is looking for pledges that will be over 3 years' time and will really sustain our efforts at expanding. We launched this campaign in May of 2024, and we've surpassed $600,000 in pledges. The community support has been absolutely astounding. So now that I'm on, if you're interested in learning more about how you can make a pledge over 3 years, you can contact me at kate@bikelibrary.org. I can help you through making a credit card donation, an ACH donation. We accept stock or QCD, the qualified charitable distributions.
That is super, super impressive. Congratulations, you guys. That's really cool.
Thank you. We are doing so much with this campaign, and it's a really smart financial framework. So we have 4 initiatives that are guiding this campaign. It all wraps up into expanding our staff with a youth bike coordinator and also overhauling this outdoor space that we discussed earlier. So the first initiative is to pay off our mortgage on this building. The second initiative is to make energy efficient upgrades to our building. Both of these initiatives will save our organization $2,600 in our operating budget.
A month.
So it's with those funds that we intend to have a sustainable youth bike coordinator position in our operating budget. The third initiative funds this position for 2 years while we complete those projects. And then the fourth initiative is really exciting. It's painting that bike skills loop in the outdoor space. It's getting a rainwater harvested bike wash going, shading the outdoor space, getting permanent seating. It's really setting us up to be able to serve our community as best as we can.
And well into the future, which is pretty cool. Audrey, what's your opinion on the future of bike libraries? Is it something that you think is sustainable? Will it go on forever? What's your thought?
One thing that people ask me a lot when they come to the bike library, especially if they're from out of town and they're just coming for the first time, they ask, why doesn't my town have one of these? Why doesn't my town have a bike library? And we believe that every town should have a bike library. And it might not look the same as what we have here, but like I said, there are 220 community bike shops across the country. And then internationally, there are hundreds and hundreds of community bike shops. We'll refer to them as community bike shops, or some people refer to them as alternative bike shops because they're nonprofits or they're collectives. They're different from regular retail shops. There are 5 alternative bike shops across Iowa in Ames, Des Moines, Dubuque, Cedar Rapids now, in Iowa City. A lot of people from Cedar Rapids were coming to the Iowa City Bike Library and wondering, why don't we have a shop like this in Cedar Rapids? And then the final straw was Lynn County Public Health came and asked, what are you doing with your teens? We have some money. We have a violence problem with kids in Cedar Rapids. We want to do some outreach through the lens of the bicycle. And so we got a bunch of people from Cedar Rapids together at SoCo one afternoon, gave a 5-minute presentation, and then asked everybody, who wants to step up from Cedar Rapids and run this? And 5 people came forward, and they now have a pretty big space. They have a executive director, and they have a board, and they're very active even just a year in.
And it's called CR Bike Hub. So
Chain Reaction Bike Hub.
Yeah. I've been there a couple times, and it is really phenomenal. And, there's a lot of things that are different than this space, but like you said, it doesn't matter. I mean, you have to get your bike library to match your community.
And Kate, do you want to talk a little bit about what Grinnell's doing? It looks completely different than what we're doing in Iowa City. But the cool thing about the bike library and other community bike shops is that they reflect the needs of if they're good, they reflect the needs of the community.
Absolutely. So I'm from Grinnell, and we have one bike shop there, Bikes to You. It's been open and a great spot to go to since I was a kid. They started up a really booming gravel group called the Prairie Burners. And so what they were finding was that people weren't able to come on the bike ride because they didn't have gravel bikes yet. And so they managed to start up a gravel bike rental program at the local bike shop. And so it's kind of this way of partnering the nonprofit side that's really focused on getting bikes to people at an affordable cost with the for-profit bike shop that has to make, a profit. And so that's been a really cool thing to see, that even if you're not doing a full-fledged bike library like this with its own space, with its own bikes, there's still ways to make biking accessible to everyone in your community.
And I know you can't speak for every bike library across the state or across the nation, but are there current volunteer opportunities, or are they ever gone?
I think, of course. I can't speak to their specific process. At the bike library, we're pretty stringent, and we have people fill out an application and come to an orientation. I know that the Des Moines Street Collective, which is where I used to live, was always looking for volunteers. So if you have a bike library or something of the sort in your town, I highly recommend that you get involved.
Let's speak to, inspiring others, whether it's to volunteer at a bike library or start their own in their own city. Speak to us about inspiring.
We're hoping to continue to keep up the number of community bike shops that are popping up. And we would love to be able to talk to other people across the state about what a community bike shop could look like in their town. I really think the Quad Cities is on the cusp of starting their own. We get bikes from all different places. So the reason why I had one shoe on is because I like to get comfortable in my, office, and I had kind of one shoe on and one shoe off. And Shanti, one of our volunteers, she's a haul vol, a volunteer that hauls things in their trucks.
Oh, a haul vol.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And she's just hauled a whole trailer full of bikes from the Coralville police impound.
Oh, wow.
And so we get bikes from Coralville. We're going to get bikes from Tiffin. We get bikes from Iowa City impound. We get bikes from the Trek store in Davenport.
Wow.
And there's no reason why those bikes should be coming here if there was a community bike shop in the Quad Cities, which there is a big need for one in the Quad Cities.
I was just going to say, and a need, but I can't think of any place that there isn't a need for bikes for people who maybe aren't into bike. Anyway, back to the one shoe.
So anyways, Shanti had just pulled up in her trailer to unload these 50 bikes, and I needed to go out there and let her know that she can go grab a beer and we'll help her unload when we are done with the podcast. But Kate,
there is always something happening at the bike library, and it's most often it's a party.
I think it's interesting that there are 3 women here on this podcast talking about bikes, because a lot of the times there's not as many women represented in the bike culture, and that's changing.
For sure.
That's definitely changing, but there aren't a lot of female-run bike shops or collectives as well. And one thing I would kind of, urge people to think about as if they are starting up their own program, whether it's a bike shop or like something that Grinnell has, is to invite women into spaces or invite underrepresented people into bike spaces and let them make decisions. The other thing that I love about the bike library is we've made it so that it's a place where people can come in and fumble through repairs. If you've never picked up a tool before, it is going to be really hard and very intimidating to do your first fix a flat. And if someone is hovering over you with tools, or someone's grabbing tools out of your hand because they're upset because you're not doing it right, you're not doing it fast enough, that's a really good way to scare people away.
For sure. And if you never take the plunge to try it the first time, you'll always be that person on the bike trail that's like, I haven't learned how to do this yet. You can learn.
You can learn. And this is a place where people can fumble through things
Sure.
and fail until they get it right. And a lot of times women aren't given that space to do that. They're not invited into the space, or people tell them like, oh, just let me do that for you. And when you're on the bike trail or when you're on RAGBRAI and it's hot out and it's 100 degrees and, there's a repair that needs to happen on your bike, it's not a great time to learn.
Right. That is true.
And so
I do not want somebody hovering over me saying, get figured out yourself. Go for it. No, I would like to learn, in the safe space, like a bike library.
Exactly.
Well, this has been so awesome. And hopefully, there are people out there that have been inspired to either utilize their own bike library or consider talking to city officials or a bike shop to, find out if something like this exists or could exist.
Yeah. And we serve over 5,000 people a year.
Wow.
And we have a budget of $300,000. So, and we are scrappy and resourceful, and we're great at problem solving, and it's really impressive what we can get done with not a lot. We're taking donated bikes and putting value back into them, and our budget isn't that big, but we are able to have a huge impact on the community. So yeah.
And I think what people gain from a space like this is invaluable. I mean, having the, what's the right word? The confidence, by learning how to ride a bike or now owning a bike or being able to get from point A to point B because of a bicycle. It's all amazing.
The bike library is a really rare, intergenerational, bilingual space that really invites you to be truly in community, to teach each other, learn from each other, ride with each other. Great place to be.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Audrey and Kate, for being on the podcast and talking about the Iowa City Bike Library. Will you tell us one more time what your website is and how to donate?
Bikelibrary.org is where you can find all of the information. You can also reach out to us at kate@bikelibrary.org.
All right. Well, thank you both.
Thank you so much for having us.
Bye-bye.
Well, listeners, that is it for today. We want to thank you for tuning in to listen to the Just Go Bike podcast. If you would like to contact Murph and AP with a comment about the podcast, or maybe even you have a topic in mind, you can reach us at justgobikepodcast@gmail.com. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook and watch our intros on YouTube. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, especially if you're a fan. That is going to do it for this week. Until next time,
Just go bike.
theme song by Ryan Steer, logo by Suzanne Milosevic, produced by Kathy Murphy, social media by Andrea Parrott, intro by Pumpkin. Until next time, just go bike.